Sometimes it fills me with absolute fear, self-doubt, anxiety, loathing, rage, anger, hatred for my own being, unable to overcome or fully get rid of a diagnosis written on paper that seems to define me and my everyday life. Is it just me being neurotic, having a chemical imbalance? Is the self-work and journey to healing my traumas just not enough? Well, I guess I'll just stay in bed. I don't want to cause anyone trouble by indulging them in my misery. I know I'm in my own way, but how do I move? Bed rotting. The term bed rotting was born from TikTok sometime in 2023 to describe the inability of getting out of bed due to the mental load of an individual. This could vary anywhere from mental health issues or neurodivergence being the reason that somebody could be debilitated enough mentally, once again, to the point where they do struggle getting out of bed and attending to normal everyday tasks. A common misconception is that people just want to stay in bed, that they're lazy, that their mental health really isn't all that bad, and actually it is an excuse to not have to get up and do anything throughout the day. But if I'm being honest with you, as somebody who has struggled with mental health literally since I came out the womb, I don't know, I came out damaged, I don't know what happened there, but I can tell you right now, as somebody who has bed rotted in the past, I have not enjoyed a single moment of that. What I find helps my mental health extremely is getting up and being productive and doing things that makes me happy. So the fact that this topic has kind of jumped off of the deep end has really upset me, and that's why we're sat here in my bedroom today making a video about it. But according to the National Post, they make it seem as though this is a choice people knowingly make in their day-to-day lives. You know, just staying in bed and doing nothing. Bed rotting describes when someone chooses to stay in bed all day without engaging in productive activities or completing any tasks. Videos often depict people laying in their bed all day without doing anything constructive. And look, I'll be honest with you, this point of view makes sense when you have never experienced what the bed rotting really means. And some people can obviously be a bit cringe about it, where it's like, shut up, you're not allowed to have an opinion on this thing because you've never experienced it before. But I honestly find that people who have never experienced certain things can add a good point of view at times. Obviously, it's silly to be like, bed rotting. Imagine bed rotting. Imagine laying in bed all day and doing absolutely nothing with your life. You absolute bum. You grub. That's completely different than when someone is like, you know, maybe this isn't that productive for thy mental health, which I agree with. As somebody who has spent a large chunk of my teenage years bed rotting, I can wholeheartedly and honestly say that it did me no good. In fact, it kind of just made things a whole lot worse. And I'm not saying that you just shouldn't do it, period, because I think that sometimes, and it's not even that I think, it's just a fact, mental health services aren't really all that readily available for people because they're either too expensive, they live in a rural area, maybe it's just not your time yet to go and seek that help. There are so many reasons, right? One would bed rot, but it gets to a point, you know what I mean? Like, I am still currently on that journey where I want to better myself. I don't want to carry around all this baggage and brand myself as damaged forever. That is not something that I want at all. And I think that it's healthy for people to recognize, like, hey, this is going a little too far. I don't want to be like this forever. It's not that you're suddenly okay and you're doing well and your mental health is just on cloud nine. Now, another common misconception is the fact that because so many of us have either experienced bed rotting, know somebody who is just struggling so bad with their mental health that they physically can't do anything, and I mean anything. That goes for brushing your teeth, going to the toilet, showering. I know, you may be sitting at home and you're like, dude, that is gross, but I can't tell you how many times I have held my peace simply because it's been too hard for me to mentally get out of bed. And, you know, I think about those times, I'm like, Caitlin, why didn't you just get up and go to the toilet? But then I remember the reason why. Then I remember why I didn't brush my teeth for a week. Then I remembered why it was so hard to shower. And then it leads me back to this. It's like somehow we're defending the legitimacy of never attending to our life's duties, such as taking out the trash, going to work, or even making dinner instead of ordering DoorDash for the 4th time this week. But just because one has never experienced something before doesn't make it any less valid, and it doesn't take away from the legitimacy of that experience. I feel like I gotta repeat myself again just so the audience understands. It is not something that you actively want to do. As somebody who, you know, is still struggling, is having those days where I'm just completely, you know, falling off the wagon, it's like, I don't want to be that way. In a perfect world, you'd want your traumas to be erased from your mind. You know, you wouldn't want to have actually experienced those things in the first place. And it's not that I'm victimizing myself, I'm just understanding there are things that happen that change the way the brain thinks about things. And the chemical imbalances that are in there. And then the diagnoses on paper, it's like, you know. But I think what's most interesting about this topic is the fact that people are using this term when describing rest. Yes, rest, relaxation. Just off the top of your head, what is one thing that you like to do after work, maybe after the gym, after school maybe? Yeah, probably laying down and chilling, doom scrolling, watching Netflix, watching the latest episode of Maths. Oh, fuck those men, by the way. I hate men. I'm just kidding. Those... Yeah, it'd be laying down. That is something that I enjoy doing when I really just need to take that mental load off my back and just not think about anything. That is not bed rotting. That isn't decaying or passing away or being such a decrepit corpse that, oh my God, I'm just sinking into my bed. I'm doing nothing. I'm bed rotting. Like, no, sweetheart, you're resting. You're taking that time for yourself to recharge your battery. What do you do when your phone is running low on battery? You put it on charge. What should you do when you feel like you're running low on battery? You put yourself on charge. That means laying down and doing nothing for at least an hour. Okay, that's not bed rotting. And that negative association with rest and with bed rotting, I find to be so toxic because, you know, I understand we live in such a grind set culture where you gotta get up at 3 a.m., do your ice bath, go to your Pilates class at 5 a.m., go to work, come back, go to the gym again. And it's like, it's a bit too much. Okay, because the human experience is being kind of minimized to just money, something that is a means to an end, right? So rest is something that isn't really taken seriously at the moment because, again, it's something that is misconstrued as laziness, as someone who's bed rotting, when it's like, dude, that term is negative and it's negative for a reason. And it's just strange because I've even seen on TikTok people going as far as to making aesthetically pleasing bed rotting videos, and it's like, sweetheart, just call it for what it is. It's rest. It's fine. You don't need to put this like negative connotation on something that is so normal just to make yourself feel better about doing it, because it's not even a bad thing in the first place. I don't know how many times I have to say rest is a good thing. Taking care of yourself is a good thing, because not only does that allow you to be more productive, more focused, more mentally healthy, but you're able to attend for others as well. You can't really do that if you're just like running on no gas, sweetheart. So again, let's make this very clear, right? We know that the term bed rotting isn't cute. It's not fun. It's not even chill. I hate it. It's not supposed to be a cute term. Just like when people talk about rape and they use the word grape, like I get an algorithm and all that kind of stuff. These terms are meant to be dark and unpleasant because it's just what they are.
I am actually not interested in being the best version of myself today. I instead would like to rot.
You know, I think it's quite common and obvious, of course, that people have their days where they can't push themselves to be the bestest version of themselves that day because it just isn't reality. It isn't real life. However, let's not confuse this with literally resting. Waking up, being on our Sigma Alpha grind set every day just isn't feasible long term. Thus, we need our time to recharge our batteries. We already just went over that, right? I just don't know why people need to justify resting on social media with bed rotting, because I swear people have this negative association with rest because they think someone might comment, "Oh my god, what did you get up to today? Looks like you're being lazy." And it's like, even if someone says that shit, it's like you posted 10 seconds of your day on social media. Of course some idiot Emily is going to say some shit because maybe she's insecure about her productivity. I don't know, but I just feel like I'm living in an alternate reality almost, where I kind of am like, why the is there no normalcy on social media anymore? Why is it that resting has to be justified with the term as negative as bed rotting? You're not bed rotting, you're resting. Let's save those terms for what they actually mean. Because here's the thing, right? Using terms such as bed rotting while simply relaxing is just taking away the seriousness of mental illnesses, getting to a point where it forces one to physically not be able to do anything. I'm very aware that bed rotting isn't a medical term. It isn't really even a real term if we're going to be technical like that. It's just that it's the opposite of resting because the body just straight up refuses to rest. Therefore, being unable to attend to normal everyday tasks. As someone who is mentally ill and used to bed rot all the time and piss my life away because I just couldn't get out of my own way, out of my own head, because everything just felt so heavy and like there was a constant dark cloud on me. I just felt like it was me. I think that in general, bed rotting should be avoided as it essentially does nothing for us. And it's easy for me to sit here and say that, right? Because I've come out on the other side of it, fine, I guess. But a lot of people are just so balls deep into this shit. And I don't know, man, seeing this term just being thrown around as, bed rotting. I'm just like, bed rotting. Now, moving on, I could not find the original video of this, only a duet that a TikToker had done. As you know, this video, it made quite the rounds on TikTok last year, which understandably so was very, very controversial with many people because it's like, dude, I think bed rotting has also kind of been confused with self-care in a sense. Hence why so many people are of the belief that, you know, bed rotting, it used to be this aesthetic term like getting into bed and lighting a candle and just bed rotting, but now the annoying depressed people have taken it away from us and taken our word, and it's like, no.
Bed rotting is a trend where you just kind of enjoy the time that you have in your bed. Younger generations are really embracing this concept of soft living and being able to live a more stress-free life. It's time with yourself and your loved ones in bed, and it's intentional, so we're definitely for it.
So, actually, I wear glasses, okay? I can do that. It isn't a trend to be so mentally like to a point where you're bound by the bed's shackles, figuratively, of course. It also strikes me that you'd want to associate something so negative with something that is so normal and so positive. Like, I get it. We live in a grind set culture, like rise and grind, ice bath, Pilates. Rotting in bed is when somebody succumbs to all of that stress. Like, it's just too much for some people to even live. So they find that the only way that helps them and their situation is to make a dent in the bed for weeks because they can't get out of bed for weeks, which results in not taking care of oneself, not being productive, not going to work, not doing any schoolwork, not brushing the teeth, not showering, not changing the clothes, not changing the undies, because again, that is too much of a difficult task. And, you know, I know that the pendulum is swinging on social social media where it's like being empathetic, being understanding of one another, you know, it isn't the popular thing right now. And, you know, that's why I'm feeling as though people may bombard this video with, you're all just a bunch of mentally ill freaks, like get over it, it's just a term, it's just a fucking word. Well, I'm glad it doesn't affect you so much, mate. I'm glad that you've never been, and seriously, I am. I say this with so much respect and love. I'm glad that you've never had to deal with something as dark and unpleasant and as shitty as bed rotting, because it is shameful. It is something that you are aware of, and that's what eats at you more and more, is the fact that you know you're not being a productive member of society. You know that you shouldn't be in bed doing absolutely nothing. Most people who are stuck in the toxic cycle of bed rotting, they don't have the resources to go out there and get themselves help, because I'm sure as shit, if there were more readily available resources, if there was more help out there, this wouldn't really be a thing. I wouldn't even be sat here making a video on it today, because I wouldn't have gone through it myself. You are quite literally rotting away from within. That's what this is. Stop romanticizing mental illnesses. Bed rotting is exactly what it sounds like. Rotting in bed. It's all fun and trendy until you cannot physically get out of bed to shower or brush your teeth, wearing the same clothes for weeks. You cannot eat for days because getting up is effort. Sleeping all day, that your days blend together into nothingness. And the best part is, people call you lazy and say you're not putting any effort in when you're just trying your best to survive. Everyone's a mental health advocate until it comes to the consequences of how bad mental health can get, right? I can confidently assure every single one of you that the people who are bed rotting don't even want to be doing it themselves. They are just trying to not jump off a bridge. And it's like, wow, look at all of these mental health advocates, but when it's not pretty, when it's not aesthetic enough, when it is hard to understand, there is no empathy there. And I hate seeing that at the moment. I hate seeing just the lack of basic human understanding. Like, yeah, I agree. The things that people won't do to take care of themselves, it's gross, because I've been there, I've done that. It is uncomfortable for me to talk about, but I just have to try and make a point here, right? But I think something that people don't discuss, interestingly enough, is that it kind of is important for something to become, quote, trendy in order for it to be spoken of more. It becomes a topic that isn't so taboo. It becomes a topic where people are open and comfortable enough to talk about it, even though they're not experiencing the true brunt of it. And the thing is that everybody's mental health struggles are valid. This isn't a victim competition. This isn't a competition on who's going through it worse. So I feel as though, like, the video that we just saw, whilst it's valid and whilst people, yes, are trying to make something cute and trendy and aesthetic and glamorizing it when it just isn't, yeah, I mean, how do you think we get to spots like this where we can openly talk about it? It's because this topic has come back into circulation. Now, is it necessarily trendy to have mental health issues? Absolutely not. However, I think, you know, the fine line we walk is that in media, movies, shows, they seem to glamorize mental illnesses, and that's a completely different conversation for another time. So I am very much quite aware that those things are glamorized to an extent, but our movement is only effective if it's spoken about. No matter if someone is faking their mental illnesses or not. Of course, like, those people, they tend to spread a lot of misinformation. They are not all that helpful being a spokesperson for something they don't actually have. Again, I'm aware of that. I'm also talking about when topics become way less taboo to talk about, because I feel like making a video like this in the current social climate we're living in is quite controversial, because people aren't understanding at the moment. They aren't empathetic. Everyone just is against each other. They fucking hate each other. Anyone who has any differences, whether that be skin color, sexuality, whatever, right? Everyone's just against each other, and it sucks. But the only way we can overcome these sort of obstacles is if we talk, is if we have conversations, even with people who are faking their mental illnesses, even with people who are glamorizing them, because that's the only way people get to learn about things, and people should be open to learning about, bed rotting is a thing that exists. People aren't actively partaking in it as this fun thing where I'm just like laying in bed all day because I don't want to have a productive life. I, don't want to do things that make me happy, and I don't want to be a mentally healthy person. So before I finish off this point, yes, whilst it's annoying seeing somebody wear a mental illness as if it's like some chic jacket or a band tee, it creates a platform where we can actually speak on what it's really like being in a position like that, right? Educating people on, hey, this is what bed rotting is. It isn't actually something that is self-caring or gives the body and the mental rest. No, here is what it actually is. Here are the realities of it. People like, oh yeah, no worries, right? If this topic has shown me anything, it is that mental health still isn't taken seriously. It still is a taboo topic, and people still believe that behaviors presented as such are inherently lazy. Rest being called bed rotting is rubbing me the wrong way. It's one of those things that actually is that deep. It's subconsciously causing people to associate rest with decay/negativity. No. I see this point that's being laid out here by this Twitter user. However, let me offer a differing perspective. Sometimes it really isn't all that deep. Now, let me explain, because I have made an entire video here. I'm thinking about Vita Weeds too much. I'm making an entire video about this topic. So why the would I say that? Really, drama queen? It isn't all that deep? So why have you been waffling on about this entire time? If I'm to miss a couple notes on Guitar Hero and I'm like, oh my god, I just want to kill myself, dude. Like, seriously? Are you serious? This next note, if I miss it, I'm just gonna kill myself. I'm not actually being serious, right? I'm just kind of having a joke around. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit of a dark joke. Maybe some people wouldn't like it, but it is what it is. I'm just mad that my fingers are so clammy and slippery on these buttons because this has been one of the worst summers here in Australia. Some people aren't being inherently harmful when they are to make a video about bed rotting, because maybe it's the first time that they've ever heard this term and they haven't done much research into it, because in all actuality, because we have to be honest with ourselves here, it isn't a medical term. It isn't in the dictionary. It is something that was created by the internet, by TikTok. And yes, whilst we can look at this term and be like, finally, a term that kind of relates to something that I've been doing for so long, and I can't, I couldn't actually put my finger on what I was doing. Yeah, I was bed rotting. It's something that is shitty, that's negative, that I hate that I do, and I hate that I get into these patterns. What can I do that can not fix it, because you can't fix these issues by yourself? I mean, like, there is no way you can just like Bob the Builder it. What can I do where I become aware of these patterns and I don't bed rot? Maybe you have, say this 14-year-old on TikTok who's used the term bed rotting and they're just laying in bed kind of sad, right? And someone's like, actually, bed rotting is so hardcore that sometimes I just pee the bed because my mental health is that bad. And it's like, dude, two things are valid. Two things are very valid. I think something that I don't agree with personally is people using a term for something that doesn't apply to it, such as resting, something that is so positive and normal. I don't want negative connotations around somebody who is just simply laying down and watching TV in bed. That is not bed rotting. The problem comes from the fact that, yes, we do live in a society where resting is demonized. It is deemed as being lazy. It is deemed as being unproductive, because we see shit like this constantly on social media where every single minute of the day you're supposed to be productive. And it's just like, dude, we gotta be empathetic to the fact that people their realities just don't look like that. And, you know, unfortunately, there are people out there who struggle with their mental health so bad that it physically debilitates them. Obviously, it doesn't disable them, but it does make it so hard to do anything for yourself because you have such hatred running through your veins for yourself. And it's like, you know, the more people who understand these kind of issues, I don't think people would be as upset as they are if, you know, someone is using the term bed rotting and they're on TikTok just lighting a candle and getting into bed, you know? And so that's why people get upset. That's why people get frustrated, because the extremities of mental health and mental health episodes still aren't taken seriously enough, you know, because Emily will post to her story, suicide prevention, mental health advocacy, and then demonize somebody who is just taking some time out of their day to rest, because why isn't she using every single minute of the day to be on her grind set and be productive? It's just not possible for everybody, Emily. And with being a mental health advocate and being somebody who is mental health matters, this matters too. People who are bed rotting aren't lazy. They aren't unproductive members of society. Unfortunately, they have chemical imbalances. Unfortunately, they may have something quote unquote wrong with them that causes them to kind of just be chained to the bed, not being able to get up to even pee, brush your teeth, like really, really mundane basic tasks that in general seem so easy to us, but for some people, it's just not. All in all, bed rotting, whilst unproductive for the betterment of our mental health, falling into a pattern of behavior like that, it can't exactly be controlled at the snap of a finger, because if it really were that easy, we wouldn't be seeing people, you know, not take care of themselves when they need to. We have to start facilitating better treatment for those who suffer really bad. And that's all I've really got to say for today. So with all of that being said, everybody, thank you so much for sitting here with me and going over this. I know it's really not going to be that deep to some people, but for some of us, it really is that deep, because until you've lived it, you would understand and empathize with it so much more, which I am hoping that more people can empathize with behaviors like this after today's video, because once again, I completely understand certain perspectives where it's like, oh my God, that person's lazy. Well, you would think that when you haven't gone through it. You know what I mean? So thank you so much for taking the time out, coming over to the Yappersville bedroom, President and CEO. Take care of yourselves, and most importantly, love your fucking selves.